Engaging the client, managing an investment bank process. This is lesson 4 of class 1. In this lesson, we will review what to expect following a successful bake-off and the steps necessary to execute an engagement letter. Background. The Warren Fox Group has outlined the key parameters and responsibilities that a bank should follow to successfully engage the client. Following the successful bake-off, the bank will provide the client with an engagement letter which outlines the relationship between both parties and the terms of the engagement. To become officially engaged, both the bank and the client need to mutually agree and execute the engagement letter, or EL. Following a successful bake-off. Near-term objectives. Step 1. Provide the client with an engagement letter. Step 2. Ensure that the mutual NDA is in place. Step 3. Provide an initial due diligence list. Provide the client with the engagement letter. The bankers will provide the client with an engagement letter, tailored specifically to the client's mandate. The engagement letter is a document that officially outlines the relationship between the bank and the client. Some key parameters include parties involved, roles and responsibility of each party, definition of services and services offered, associated fees and fee pricing, engagement tails, potential carve-outs. The client will likely work with its legal counsel to make edits or red lines where necessary. The bank and the client will negotiate terms which could include pricing or simply just language around definitions. Once the bank and the client come to an agreement, the engagement letter will be duly executed, which will mark the official beginning of the mandate. In short, a mutual NDA is in place. If not already in place, the junior bankers will prepare and send a mutual non-disclosure agreement to the client. The mutual NDA is a document that allows the bank and the client to freely exchange information. The document is a two-way non-disclosure agreement that protects both the client and the bank from outside sharing of internal company information, ideas, financials, or near-term strategy objectives. At a high level, the mutual NDA will define an effective date, the participating parties, what is and what is not considered confidential information, what can be done and what cannot be done with confidential information, what happens if there is a breach in confidential information, how long the agreement lasts for, and the state in which the contract is governed. Sometimes, after being officially engaged and knowing that the client will have to share more sensitive documents with the bank, the client might suggest instituting a more tightly worded mutual NDA to strengthen the existing conditions around confidential information. Provide an initial due diligence list. Once the engagement letter and the mutual NDA are fully executed, the bankers will work with the client to obtain initial due diligence information to begin underwriting the deal. This requires the junior bankers to develop and send out an initial due diligence list, schedule a kickoff meeting, and begin creating materials for the kickoff deck. Critical elements of the engagement letter. Background. The engagement letter is an absolutely critical document to ensure a healthy relationship between the bankers and their clients. Remember, the bank is paid a lion's share of its fees based on the transaction value of the deal, and it's paid after the deal is successfully funded. Bankers are typically not paid hourly for their advisory. Therefore, it is vital to the bank that parameters are set around the engagement's tail and any agreed upon carve-outs. Engagement tail. The engagement tail is a function of the EL that commits a client to a specific investment bank partner for a given period of time. Engagement tails usually state that the bank is to be paid on any capital markets activity throughout X number of months following the execution of the EL. This function protects the bank against the client benefiting from the bank's work and relationship building without properly compensating the practitioners. For example, the engagement tail would protect against a client who tries to terminate its banking engagement days prior to the deal closing. It also discourages the client from negotiating backroom deals with investors that came from the bank's network. Carve-outs. A carve-out is an investor or group of investors whose actions do not yield a success fee for the investment bank. For example, the client might suggest carving out existing investors who want to invest alongside new investors to maintain their pro rata ownership positions. Carve-outs are typically only allowed in very special situations because the bank does not want to run a process and find an investor to price the deal only to have the client take capital from the existing investors on those same terms. The above scenario is called a stalking horse event. This is the end of class 1. Thank you for joining, and we look forward to seeing you in our next class, in which we will cover deal launch preparation.